Well, Mr. Moore, you're as healthy as an ox. Your cholesterol is 127. Even your good to bad ratio is excellent. Your lungs are clear. Your PSA is right where it should be, and it says here, you've lost 5 pounds since I saw you last. In other words, whatever you're doing, keep it up. If all my patients were as healthy as you, I'd be out of business, he said with a snicker. So, Doc, there is nothing wrong with me? Steve, is there something in particular you're interested in? Just the blood work. He looked at the results again. Nothing. Absolutely nothing, he said, closing my file. I'll see you next year. My nurse will make the appointment on your way out. Damn, that was a load off my mind. At least I won't have to kill the two of them for giving me HIV or AIDS. I said to myself as I got into my car and headed back to work. That's one thing I won't have to worry about ever again. Now, if I could just narrow down the suspects. You see, I just found out for sure my loving wife Beth is cheating on me with one of our friends. After 9 years of bliss, I'm plotting my revenge on her and her F-buddy, whomever it is. Am I in a hurry? Not really. I've got all the time in the world now that I know Beth hasn't infected me with some incurable disease, and there's not a chance I'm ever going to touch her again. At least not with my... How did I find out, you ask? She told me. Well, I guess she did come right out and say, Steve, IF so-and-so. She did it a much more subtle way. It was early evening, somewhere in the area of 9 o'clock. It had been a pretty good day all in all, and I was feeling more than a little amorous. Babes, I said in my sexiest voice, you want to have a little fun tonight? Not tonight, she said, opening up her book. I'm a little tired, and all I want to do is wind down. I can help you with that. How about a neck and back rub? Steve, all you want to do is get me naked, and it's not going to work tonight, she said, going back to her book. You're never in the mood anymore. Don't I do it for you anymore? Steve, sometime you just don't anymore, she said, putting her book down on her lap. Well, maybe if we did it more than once every 2 or 3 weeks, you could get back in the groove. Steve, what about no, don't you understand? I don't want you tonight, it's that simple. I just stood there stunned. I couldn't believe what my loving wife had just told me. I grabbed my pillow and started out the bedroom. What are you going to do now, Sulk? She shot back at me. Don't worry, I would bother you anymore, tonight or any time in the future. Since I don't do it for you anymore, I guess I'll just have to go elsewhere, I told her, walking across the hall and into the spare room. I heard her call out my name once before I slammed the door and locked it. This bitch, I'm done begging her for it anymore. If she doesn't want me any longer, so be it. I went to sleep, or tried to, but this was a huge deal in my eyes, and that's all I thought about all night. I came downstairs just before 7 the next morning, tired and still pissed. Steve, I'm sorry about what I said last night. I didn't mean it, and I was just tired. Maybe we can fool around tonight, she said with a smile. Beth, what are you doing? Throwing me a bone? Maybe if I lie there and let him F me, it'll all blow over, you're thinking? Well, F you. I wouldn't touch that goddamn of yours if it was the last one on earth. I spewed at her. So you don't have to worry. I won't be asking you for it any longer, I said, grabbing my briefcase. I probably won't be home for dinner tonight. Just looking at you makes me sick to my stomach. With that, I left. Beth must have left 100 calls on my cell and business line that day. When she started emailing me after lunch, I blocked her, so I wouldn't have to worry about how sorry she was. She'd become a real asshole over the last 6 months, and I was tired of it. We had it about once every 2 weeks, and that was only after I'd almost had to shame her into it. There was always an excuse, and although some were probably legit, most weren't. I used to look forward to coming home and making love to her. I would set the mood with maybe a back or foot massage with scented oil, but now all she wanted to do was get it on and done with as soon as possible. I had dinner out by myself and hit a local watering hole after that. I sipped on a beer or two while watching the game and didn't get home until well after 11. I thought about sneaking in, but thought what the hell, I hadn't done anything wrong. When I went past our bedroom, Beth flung open the door. Where in the hell have you been? Out. What's it to you? That put her back on her heels. You didn't call or anything. You could have been lying dead in a ditch for all I knew. Well, I guess then you wouldn't have had to worry about me pawing at you anymore, I said, slipping in the knife and turning it twice. If you'll excuse me, it's late and I need to get some sleep. I shut the door in her face and went to bed. I slept better that night. Are you going to honor us with your presence tonight at dinner? She asked in a shitty tone of voice. I haven't decided yet. Well, how in the hell am I going to know then? Well, sweetheart, let me put it to you this way. If I'm here, I'll eat here, and if I'm not, I won't. Does that about cover it? Well, Steve, let me know when you're done acting like a 2-year-old. Beth, why don't you go F yourself? Wait a minute. You're probably doing that already unless you're getting it somewhere else, I said, looking right at her. She was good, but not that damn good when I saw that look in her eye. How dare you accuse me of cheating on you? She now yelled at me. I then pushed it further. Beth, if you're not getting it from me, you must be getting it somewhere else. Steve, go to hell. I don't give a rat's ass if you ever come home for dinner ever again. She shouted at me before turning her back on me and walking away. All the way to work, I kept remembering that look in her eye. Not horror that I'd accused her of cheating, but that of shock and surprise, like I'd touched an open nerve. On the internet, you can find almost anything. I typed in surveillance equipment and 10,000 items popped up. I kept narrowing my search until I got down to a manageable 100 choices. Finally, I found what I was looking for, a remote surveillance camera with a recording device. It would handle up to 4 tiny cameras, and with the extended memory chip would record up to 5 days. More than I needed. I ordered it and had it shipped overnight to my office. The next part would be tricky. You see, Beth didn't work and took care of our 2 kids, Dan, who was 7, and Amy, who just turned 5. So how to get her out of the house without her suspecting something was going to take some thinking. I didn't eat supper at home anymore, but didn't stay out past 8 o'clock. After all, I still needed to work. Now when I got home, I ignored her and just hung out with my 2 kids. I've got to run to the store for a minute. If it's not too much of an imposition, do you think you can watch your children for about 20 minutes until I get back? Whatever, I said, not even looking at her. As soon as she was down the driveway, I was out to the trunk of my car. I hid a camera in the kitchen, in our bedroom, in the basement, and one out on the back porch. I also had just a voice-activated recorder that I planned on putting under the front seat of her car. I put the base station in an old trunk in the attic, and all you could see was the power cord coming from it. I tested them each out and went back to the living room where the kids were watching a movie. It was unbelievable how small they actually were. I knew where I put each, but had a hard time even seeing them myself. The next few days should be interesting. Are you coming to and in Dick's barbecue on Saturday? Beth asked Wednesday night. I'm going with or without, so I really don't give a shit one way or another. You see, we were in a group of 8 couples in the neighborhood who once a month put on a barbecue at one of their houses. Every month it rotated from couple to couple, and this week it was, and in Dick's turn. It was a potluck and everyone brought something to share. You sweet talking girl, with an invitation like that, how could I refuse you? I said as sarcastically as possible. We went together Saturday night, but she stayed the hell away from me all night. When we started playing couples games, I intentionally did everything I could to see that we came in last place. I watched the tapes for 3 weeks and saw nothing out of the ordinary. The only thing that piqued my interest was a conversation Beth had with one of her girlfriends. I just wished I could have heard both sides of the conversation. He still won't sleep with me and it's going on 4 weeks. I didn't think he'd last this long. I know I hurt his little ego, but he just won't ever leave me the hell alone. No, we're not getting a divorce. It's not that bad. Well, not yet anyway. I bought a new outfit yesterday at the mall that would bring a dead man back to life, and I plan on springing it on him tonight. If that doesn't work, nothing will. I'll give you a call tomorrow to tell you how he liked it. Well, at least I knew what she was planning tonight. I just wasn't sure how I was going to react. I guess I'll just have to play it by ear and see what happens. At least she's still trying. Maybe I was wrong about her cheating. Even with all my fancy electronics, I didn't have a shred of evidence that even remotely suggested it. I still ate out, not wanting to change my pattern and throw her off her game, but I did get home about 7:30. You're home early for a change, she said with a smile. If you're still hungry, there's some meatloaf in the refrigerator and apple pie in the oven, she said casually, fully knowing that apple pie was my favorite. She sure was bringing out all the big guns. At about 8:30, I carried 2 tired kids up to their bedrooms. I helped them get undressed and put them to bed while Beth cleaned up the kitchen. I gave them each a hug and kiss before turning out the lights. I then went downstairs and turned on the television in the living room and waited. I didn't have to wait long. She was right. That outfit would raise the dead. It was jet black and scarlet red with just enough material to hide what I didn't want hidden. Holy F was the only thing that went through my mind. "You got any extra time for me tonight?" she asked, walking into the room. I wanted to scream hell yes at the top of my lungs, but just calmly asked her what she had in mind. "I have something in the bedroom that needs your attention. That is if you're not too busy or still angry with me." "Well, let's go look. I don't have anything pressing at the moment," I said, forgetting why I was even mad at her at this point. She took me by the hand, and by the time we hit the bedroom we were kissing. It was every bit as good as I'd remembered it. We didn't we made love. Her outfit was designed in such a way that I didn't even had to take it off to get to her treats. We were doing things I'd always wanted to do but had been turned down all these years. I thought the neighbors would be banging on our door asking what the hell I was doing to her. "You up for another one?" Beth asked, kissing me. "Maybe when I recover or can feel my because it's numb now." "Well then, come with me," she said, jumping up and pulling me out of bed and into the shower. After our shower, we went back to our bed and fell asleep in each other's arms. I had a wife again. Life was good. No, life was great. We were a couple again, and I even started cooking dinner so she could finish her other projects before we went to bed. We didn't do it every night, but we made sure Fridays were always open for date night. And if I hadn't gone into the attic to disconnect that damn tape player, I'd still be in wonderful bliss. I reset it and took the memory card to work. That's when my world ended. It was the 5th day on the tape, the day after our fabulous night. I deleted the other 4 days, and just for kicks I decided to listen to it. Beth is probably going to call her girlfriends and tell them how I rocked her world that night, I said, pumping myself up. But what I heard wasn't a conversation with one of her girlfriends. It was with someone else, a man. "Well, I took care of our problem last night. It was so easy, and Steve never knew what hit him. That outfit you bought me did the trick. I had him all over me before we even got to our bedroom. I was going to let him do anything he wanted that night, but predictable Steve didn't even take my the way you like to do. I guess if he had, he'd see that his loving bride didn't have a V anymore." I could hear laughing through the phone. I wanted to reach through the tape and strangle the two of them. "Don't worry, I only need to give him a taste once in a while, and that should keep him happy and content." I thought for sure he'd notice I was a little stretched out, but hell, it had been so long he probably couldn't remember what it used to feel like. "I plan on keeping him happy and satisfied this way. We'll have all the time in the world," she told whomever was speaking to on the other end of the line. "We just have to be careful. We don't need to get caught now. You keep your wife happy, I'll keep my husband happy, and we can still find more than enough time for ourselves. Maybe we'll be able to sneak away at the Saturday barbecue for a little fun. I love a challenge. Well, let me go. I've got dinner to prepare and the kids will be home soon." "Of course not. I gave him some the day before yesterday. I'll just tell him I've got my period. He'll never know," Beth said, hanging up on him and our marriage. I watched and listened to the tape at least 3 more times, hoping to get a clue to who was on the other end of the phone. The only thing I knew for sure, it was someone I knew, a friend. If you could call someone that who was banging your wife. At least I reset everything before I left, I thought to myself. Even without the chip, I could get 12 hours on the small mainframe the unit came with. "I guess it's back to recording everything again," I said as I clenched my fists. "My payback is going to be so complete. They're going to wish they'd never been born." Of course, I didn't have a clue yet what it was going to be, but I had time. I wanted to savor what I was about to do. The first thing I did was to get checked out. There was too much shit out there, and AIDS was the first thing that popped into my head. Just my luck. She probably gave me AIDS and I'm going to die. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. My next task was to figure out who the asshole was. On a pad of paper, I wrote the names of the 7 couples we always hung with. At first glance, I thought there was no way it could be any one of them. These are our good friends. I've known them each for over 3 years. How could one of these guys be my wife? It's not possible. But it was. Our next-door neighbors, Ann and Dick, were your typical suburban couple. They were in their early 30s, same as us, and happy as 2 could be. Hell, Dick was probably my best friend and he loved Beth. But maybe too much. I started to think. Mary and Ron were the oldest of our group. They were both pushing 50. With Ron's bad heart, no way he was with Beth. I crossed him off my list. I next thought about Sue and Carl and started to see where Carl could be a suspect, and then remembered that they were on a cruise at the time of that call to Beth. Unless he was calling from the cruise ship, which was highly unlikely, he was also out. Sonia and Jerome were the newest couple to our group. They moved into our neighborhood from Chicago about 3 years ago. He was a sales rep for a drug company and was always on the road. They were a black couple, and with Beth's southern roots, I don't think Jerome was a good candidate. I'm not saying she was a bigot. It's just that she didn't swing that way, if you know what I mean. We'd know Betty and Andy for about 5 years. Betty always had to watch Andy at our get-togethers because he liked his beer. More than once someone had to help him home. When he got drunk, he flirted with the ladies, but hell, most of the husbands did. I thought about keeping him on the list, but figured a drunk couldn't be that good in bed. But how about when he sobered up? F it, I left him on. Of all the couples, I knew it wasn't Vicky and Mike. They were still in the newlywed stage of their marriage, even after 6 years. More than once someone said we'd have to hose the two of them down as they exchanged lips or got more than friendly in the hot tub at one of the houses. I envied the two of them. Beth and I'd been married 9 years, and compared to the two of them, we acted like we'd been married 50. Well, her anyway. I didn't even have to think twice about keeping Chris on my list. Donna and Chris were nice, but were kind of aloof at times. They had money and at times loved to show it off. More than once I had to bite my tongue at what Chris did or said. He was kind of an arrogant prick, but Beth seemed to like him. Well, she seemed to anyway. Maybe it was his money she liked. Donna and Chris didn't seem to connect with one another, and maybe there was trouble in paradise? I circled Chris's name. Looking at the list, I saw 3 names, one of which I couldn't believe I'd included on my list. Dick was my best friend, but you always heard stories of the best friend doing your wife behind your back. Andy was basically a no the more I thought about it, and Chris was a definite yes. It was still another week before our monthly outing, and I needed to somehow find out more details about each. Steve, you still going to have Carl paint the other 2 rooms upstairs? Beth asked when I got home from work. I feel like we took advantage of him the last time when he did the other 2 bedrooms. He charged me for paint and a case of beer, and that was all. I did slip Sue a couple $100 before they went on their cruise. I told her friendship was one thing, but business was business. Let me think about it. There's no real hurry with the kids' rooms, is there? Well, we've got the barbecue next, and I want the house to look nice. Babes, the house always looks nice. Who in the hell is going to go upstairs and look at the paint on our walls? Steve, it's a woman thing, okay? Stupid B. She's going to have more to worry about than paint when I figure out who she's F. At the party, I watched all the guys like a hawk. Andy was downing the beers like water, and Dick was being nice and helping Beth put out all the food on the deck tables. Chris was his arrogant self, and if I was reading Beth's body language right, she was getting turned off about his explaining about how he'd made a killing on Apple computer stock. Unless they were putting up a good front, Carl was falling down a notch or 2 on my list. With Carl and Andy seeming more and more unlikely candidates, that left my good buddy Dick as my prime suspect. After the party, and Dick stayed over to help us clean up. Good party, wouldn't you say? I asked Dick. Yeah, it looks like everyone had a good time, especially Andy, Dick said with a snicker. Betty threw him an elbow after his 3rd beer and told him if he got drunk again tonight, he was sleeping on the couch. He must have nursed that last beer for 2 damn hours. We both laughed. Steve, Dick said, looking around to see that no one was in hearing distance. Can you keep a big secret, even from Beth? I nodded yes. I'm fixing to take my wife on a 2nd honeymoon. When we first got married, we didn't have any money, so we just stayed in a hotel for a long weekend. I've booked a 7-day cruise for us, and it leaves in 2 weeks. I haven't said a word to, but told her boss all about it so she could get the time off. I just stared at him now in disbelief. In my warped mind, he'd moved up to numero uno, and now he was telling me about taking his wife on a 2nd honeymoon. Steve, I just need you to look after my place. Her mom is going to watch the kids, but if you could just look in once or twice, I'd appreciate it. And is going to go nuts when she finds out, he said with this huge grin. We may not even make it out of our room, but at least I got one with a balcony, so we'll see some of the sights. You dog, I said to him. How long have you been planning this? I've been saving for almost 6 months. I almost shit when Sue and Carl went on theirs and then lamented about their good luck. Hell, when Sue called and on her cell phone and email her a picture of the Mexican pyramids, I thought I'd bust a gut. Those 2 almost ruined my surprise. Dick, how could Sue call in? Steve, hello? There are cell towers everywhere now, and if not, have you ever heard of satellites? It's expensive as hell, but you can call anywhere in the world now from your cell phone. But if you think I'm going to do anything like that, don't count on it. I plan on being busy doing other things, if you know what I mean. All right, call me stupid. In my mind, I crossed off Dick, who shouldn't have ever been on the list in the first place. That left Andy and Chris, who both seemed unlikely candidates. Jesus Christ, who in the hell was Beth F? About 3 in the morning, it finally hit me, Carl. At work the next day, I put 2 and 2 together and came up with Carl. He was a self-employed painter and made his own hours. His wife worked in an office so he could come and go as he pleased. Since Beth didn't work, they could get together during the day and no one would be the wiser. Hell, it probably started when he painted our upstairs bedroom 6 months ago, and Beth probably F him in our goddamn bed. The more I thought about it, the madder I got. Even though I felt like putting a bullet in their heads, I didn't want to go to jail, and I had the kids to think about. Beth, now that I think about it, why don't we have Carl paint the last 2 rooms? This way the whole upstairs will be done. If you don't mind, can you give him a call and set it up? But tell him up front I intend to pay him for his work this time. I told Beth when I called her from my office. We may even want to recarpet those rooms while we're at it. Steve, one thing at a time. You know we're not made of money. Let's get the walls done, and then we can worry about floor coverings. I guess you're right, babes. I don't know what I'd do without you. I said, even though I wanted to puke. You're right. You are lucky to have me. 2 days later in my office, with my door shut, I listened to their conversation. Honey, you'll never guess what. Steve wants you to paint the other 2 bedrooms upstairs. Isn't that wonderful? I guess you plan on paying me the same way as you did last time? Carl replied, you can bet on that. But this time, there won't be any need for flirting. It'll be nice not to have to sneak around for a change. This way you can come over after the kids go to school, and we can take all the time we need. I like when you F me in my bed, she laughed. But Beth, remember, I still have to paint the damn rooms. Hell, how long can that take? A couple of hours? I plan on making this project last at least a week. We haven't done it 3 days in a row ever. Beth, I still have to work for a living. I can't simply come by every day and do it with you. Why don't you get your husband to take up some of the slack? He's useless and too damn predictable. Besides, I can barely feel him any longer. Maybe I'll let him F my back and leave my just for you. Beth, our one evil bee, you know that? Just remember, I'm only your evil bee. Remember that. Thank God they ended it after that. I thought I was going to puke. It was now time to figure out a plan that put both of them down for the count. Carl would be easy. I'd send a video to his wife and he'd be paying for the rest of his life. But I wanted more than just that from the 2 cheaters. They'd made a fool out of me, and I wanted them to feel the pain every time they thought about what they'd done. I wanted my pound of F flesh. If I just divorced Beth, most likely she'd get everything, even if she were a cheating W. That meant she'd get the kids, the house, and I'd be paying for the next 13 years, and she'd still get to F around. A bullet in the head would take her out of the picture, but I didn't have that in me, so I needed something in between. Damn cramps, Beth said, taking 3 Tylenol. You'd think they'd allow us to get something stronger over the counter to handle these fig-gin cramps. Why don't you go to the doctor and get something stronger? Don't you think I've tried? That asshole of a doctor just prescribed some ultra aspirin. If he had he'd know what we went through every month, she said, leaning against the bathroom counter. She'd given me an idea, but I didn't have a clue how to make it happen. But I'd find a way. There was one part of town no God-fearing, self-respecting person went unless you were looking for what was sold there. And that was everything, and I do mean everything. I got my old work truck, and in a raggedy-ass shirt and jeans I made the trip. I wasn't sure what I wanted really, but I had a pretty good idea. I figured I'd have to find someone who knew the ropes there. So I picked up a black hooker working the streets. You're not a cop, are you? She asked. Do I look like a cop? Prove it then, she asked. Show me your D. I looked around, zipped down my fly and pulled out my. She touched it, stroked it and asked what I was looking for. A BJ is 30, AF is 75, and you can have my for another 20, she said, popping her gum. How about a covered BJ? My, cautious aren't we? Most guys don't want me to use a rubber, even for F, don't worry. I'm clean, but if you want it covered, no problem. She was good. Hell, she was great, but I guess after S as many as she probably had, you'd have to at least learn a few things. When she saw I was done, She peeled it off and tossed it out the window. Class, nothing but class. Then I asked, "You know where I can score a few joints and some?" I asked a surprised hooker as she gave me more than a once-over. "You don't seem to be the type." "It's not for me but my wife. She says that when she's high S is a lot better. I figure I'll get her a few things and we can try them all out." For a second, I thought she was going to bolt out from the truck. "How much money you got?" "Enough for a taste anyway," I told her. "I don't usually do this, but since you're going to give me an extra 50, I just might help you score," she said, lighting up a small joint. "You want a hit?" she said, passing it to me. "Can't. I've got asthma and it would probably kill me." "Well, give me 50 and go where I tell you," she instructed. I gave her 2 20s and a 10 and drove. About 5 minutes later, we pulled up behind a house that was basically falling down shack. "Give me 200 and wait here. Leave the windows up and keep the doors locked. If anyone comes up to the window, ignore them, and if he pulls out a gun, well, man, you're on your own," she said, laughing. I knew I was probably making a big mistake, but I did it anyway. "Just hurry," I asked. "Don't worry, lover. I won't stiff you," she said, getting out and walking through the door. It felt like she'd been gone for a damn hour. More than once I almost left thinking she'd probably gone out the front door and left me holding my D. When she came back out, I breathed a sigh of relief. "Honey, drive," is all she said, looking around. "I guess for cops." "I got you 3 nice rocks of and 3 joints," she said, smiling. "But it's going to cost you another 20. "But you said," I started to say, and then thought better of it. "How about including another BJ and I'll make it 30. "I like the way you think, lover," she said. "Just drive while I do this, and for Christ's sakes, don't hit anything." I gave her the money. She gave me it, and we both got what we wanted out of the arrangement. I put everything in a plastic bag under the seat. I drove extra cautious all the way back to work, switched cars, clothing, and with my stash headed for home. For about $300, I'd get my revenge on the both of them. I planned a 2-prong approach. I'd get Carl first, then come back and get Beth when she felt safe. Thursday, I picked up a prepaid cell phone on my way home from work. I figure if I got there early enough, I could catch him before he left. When I pulled into the driveway and saw his truck, I knew I was in. I broke out one of his taillights and put the 3 joints in a bag under the seat. I walked into the kitchen as he was down one of my beers, talking to Beth. "Hey buddy, how's the job going?" I asked Carl, looking at Beth for any telltale signs she was him. "Should be done by tomorrow night. I just need to swing by Home Depot and pick up another quart of trim paint," he said, finishing his beer. "Here, let me get you another," I said, getting both him and me one. "Remember, I'm paying you in cash this time," I said, giving him $320 bills. "I'll give you the rest tomorrow. I spent some of it on the way home, but I think you know I'm good for it," I said with a big smile. We shot the shit, and just before he left, I made up an excuse that I'd forgotten to pick up something at the store and would be back shortly. I thanked Carl for his help and walked out. I was down the street when he passed me, getting on the main drag. 911, what is your emergency?" the operator asked. "There's this guy in a white pickup selling to kids in my neighborhood." I told him to leave, and he said he could sell his shit wherever he wanted to. I've got him in front of me right now, and we're driving down Main Street just past Marshall. His license number is DL5512, and like I said, it's a white Chevy with a broken right tail light. I hung up and waited. We drove and drove until I figured my plan wasn't going to work. A block before the Home Depot exit, a cop pulled him over, and then another one pulled right in behind him. The first cop went up to his truck and I guess said something about his broken tail light as Carl got out, and they walked to the back of his pickup. When the second cop brought out a dog, I pumped my fist in the air. Thinking he had nothing to hide, Carl opened his truck door and I guess gave him permission to search his vehicle. Those dogs are good, as he found the joints in less than a minute. I was loving every second of it when they handcuffed Carl and put him in the back of the police car. I'd seen enough, so with a big smile on my face, I headed for home. Carl didn't make the news, but his picture was posted online under the county arrest website. You'd be surprised how many people have nothing better to do than to look up shit like that on the computer. Someone in the neighborhood saw it, and the news spread like wildfire, especially since he was charged with possession and distribution. I knew the possession would stick, but hell, he'd never get convicted for distribution with only 3 joints. But he did have the $300 in cash that I gave him. Hell, He'd be lucky to get any real jail time by the time it was over, but the exposure was what I was looking for, and he got that. Sue, if there is anything I can do to help, please let me know, I told her. I can't believe that it happened. The last time I saw him was when he and Beth were having a beer in our kitchen when I came home early that day. Steve, I never knew Carl even smoked pot. He says it wasn't his, but it was his truck. I'm not that naive. I figured he'd be done with your house by Wednesday. Sometimes I just don't understand him, she said angrily. Well, if you need anything, you know where I live. She thanked me again. Carl was the brunt of jokes and conversation at our next get-together. Sue didn't show either. I didn't blame her. It was there I put the second phase of my plan into play. All night long, I sprinkled powder into Beth's drink. I made sure there was plenty of alcohol in them, so she couldn't taste the difference. When I told her that I'd forgotten the salad she'd made, she got pissed, especially since I told her I was too drunk to drive. I'm sorry, honey. Here, let me get your purse and keys, I said, going into Betty and Andy's bedroom where our coats and everything else was. I dropped in the 2 vials with the last 2 rocks of crack and went out and gave Beth her keys and purse. Steve, you owe me big time for this. I'll expect at least an hour foot massage when we get home, she said, grabbing her purse. There was only one way to get to our house from Betty and Andy's. As soon as she pulled down the driveway, I did it again. 911. What's your emergency? There's a crazy woman driving a dark blue Toyota down Wilmore Street. She cut me off and knocked down 2 mailboxes, almost hitting my kids. I don't know if she's drunk or high, but you've got to stop her. I hung up and destroyed the phone. Beth never came back with the salad. Betty, she's not answering her cell or the house phone, I said in a worried tone. It's been over an hour. I hope she wasn't in an accident. Steve, why don't I drive you home and let Andy drive around? Maybe she just lost her phone and is stranded somewhere. Come on, let's see if we can find her. Betty and I drove up to a dark house. I used my spare key to open the door and found the bowl of salad on the kitchen counter where I'd left it. I guess she never made it home. While Betty checked with Andy, I could see the light flashing on our answering machine. The first message was from my parents saying that they weren't bringing my kids back until 9 because they were going out to dinner. The second one was from Beth. There was a lot of crying and pleading for me to come get her because she'd been picked up for driving under the influence and possession of. Betty, she's been arrested for possession of D, I said in my best surprise tone of voice. I don't understand. Beth doesn't do. What the hell is going on? Steve, where are your children? At my mom's, I replied. Why don't you call her and tell her to keep the kids, and you and I can go down to the station and straighten this mess out. I made the call and we left. I can't believe this is happening. First Carl and now Beth. What the hell is going on? I've never seen her take anything stronger than aspirins, even though she talked about wanting something stronger for her monthly cramps. But she wouldn't do this, would she? Beth was being held on possession, and it would take me 24 hours to get her out. Beth, why are you doing? Did Carl get you into it? How could you do this to us? I said loud enough that Betty could hear. Steve, this is a huge mistake. I promise you I'm not doing drugs. I don't know how they got into my purse. Someone must have planted them on me. Beth, you're saying one of our friends at the party planted on you? Do you really expect me to believe that? Steve, you have to. I'm innocent. Well, I won't be able to get you out until Monday when I can get the cash from the bank. You'd better think about what you've done and have answers for me on Monday, I told her in an angry tone. Steve, listen to me. I don't do. You have to believe me. Do you think I'd lie to you? You'd better not be lying to me, Beth. And if you are, there will be consequences. I'm going to have Betty take me home so I can get the kids from Mom's. And don't worry, Betty is the only one who knows you're in jail. I left a crying Beth. It was all coming together. When my mom brought the kids back, I told her that Beth had been picked up by the police for possession of. She thought I was joking until I told her I was dead serious. She's been acting weird for a while. Maybe something's going on that I don't know about? I told her. Steve, I know, Beth. This has to be just a big misunderstandings, you'll see. But it wasn't. I saw to that. With the kids tucked away, I reviewed this week's tape. It was as I suspected. Carl and Beth were having a full-blown affair. It bothered me a lot, especially at what they were doing, but the lying and her belittling me to Carl only drove in the stake deeper. I could only watch it so long, especially after she begged him to do things she told me were totally disgusting. I made 3 copies of the tape and went to bed. Mom said she'd look after the kids until Beth got out. I went to work and met with my boss. I gave him the 2-cent rundown and said I'd probably be divorcing Beth. He told me to take all the time in the world and not to worry about my job because it would still be here when I took care of business at home. Lawyers are like sharks, especially if there is blood in the water. I went over everything, starting with her being picked up, and then handed him the tape. I took this off our home security system. You can't imagine my surprise when I was scanning the tapes to see if I could see Beth taking any, when I found out she was having an affair with the husband of one of our good friends. Steve, it happens all the time, he told me. I just want it done and over with. I want the house, custody of my kids, and I sure as hell don't want to pay any alimony to that cheating ass. Don't worry, with what you've given me, it should be pretty much a slam dunk. Do you think? What's his name? He said, looking at his notes. Carl's wife is going to divorce her husband? I haven't talked to Sue, but I guess I can ask. Tell her. I'll give her a 20% discount if she's interested. I can use the same evidence, and we can do both at the same time. He gave me his card and I said I'd talk to her. My next stop was at Beth's parents' house. June and Hank were good people, even if their daughter was a shit. Steve, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at work or something? June asked. I need to talk to you both for a few minutes. I told them about the arrest, the tape, which I gave them a copy, and that I was planning on divorcing their daughter. Steve, can't you two go to counseling or something? You guys love each other. You can get past this in time. Hank pleaded with me. Look at the tape and ask yourself if this was your wife. Could you forgive her? I can't, and I think you'll agree. Also, I don't plan on bailing her out of jail. Her bail is $3,000, and since it's her fault, I've pulled money out of savings to cover it. Tell her I don't want her back, ever. I'll drop off her things tomorrow morning, and I'd appreciate it if she wasn't here when I do. He understood. Changing the locks, splitting our savings and checking accounts, and finally packing up her clothes took most of the day. With Mom picking up the kids at school and taking them to her house for dinner, it gave me time to put my last plan into play. I cracked a cold one and picked up my cell phone. Sue, Steve here. I opened with, I need to talk with you alone tonight if possible. Steve, we're just getting ready to sit down for dinner. Sue, any time tonight will work. I just need about an hour of your time. What's it about? She asked. This is something I don't want to discuss it over the phone if you don't mind. Well, why don't I stop over just before 8? Will that work? I'll be her waiting. She told me she had to go but would see me later. All right. What's so important that we had to do it tonight? Sue, Beth was picked up for possession of Saturday night. Oh my God, Steve, she's in jail? Sue, that's not the half of it. Sunday, I started going through our house security tapes to see if I could see her using it, and I found some else, I said, leading her into the living room. I hit play on our DVD and waited for her reaction. Oh my God, is all she said as she watched her husband F my wife. I stopped the tape 30 seconds later. I see you are as surprised as I was. That cheating bastard, and after I thought that everything was getting back to normal, I just thought that you should know. I made you a copy, I said, ejecting it and handing it to her. After the first 20 minutes, I turned it off. I just could watch it any longer. I'm divorcing Beth and met with an attorney this afternoon, I said, giving her his card. He said he'd give you a 20% discount if you were interested, but she wasn't hearing me. Sue is not a big woman, but I don't think I'd want her mad at me. There was a lot of swearing, and when she called Beth an S, I just agreed with her. Do you have anything to drink? Beer, wine, something stronger? Wine works, she replied. I knew something was going on, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. Now I know why he was in such a good mood when you hired him to paint those rooms, that bastard. She yelled, downing her glass and going for a refill. My attorney told me to tell you not to get into it with him while you're angry. He's not sure how Carl's going to react. He suggested that you call the police and have him removed, just to be safe. That doesn't have the balls to hit me, but you're probably right. We talked for the next 45 minutes. I felt bad, not for Carl, but for Sue and her little girl. She called the police, gave them a rundown of what was happening, and they said that they would have someone there in 20 minutes. I'm so sorry, Sue, I told her. Don't be sorry. You weren't the one F around, they were, she said looking at my lawyer's card. Tell him I'll take him up on his offer, and I'll give him a call tomorrow. Are you okay to drive? I asked. I'm fine, but I know someone who won't be in 10 minutes. Steve, I'll be in touch. I pity that son of a bitch. She's going to tear him a new asshole. I dropped off Beth's clothes Tuesday morning. Her mom was at the jail bailing her out as we unloaded the 12 garbage bags of clothes into their garage. Steve, I watched 2 minutes of the tape and you were right. I wouldn't take her back either. Hell, I don't even want her here, but she's got no place to go. I thanked him and left. It started 3 hours later. Beth left call after call on both the house phone and my cell. I listened to a few of them, but they were all about the same. I'm sorry, Carl seduced me, and it wasn't as she pleaded for forgiveness. It wasn't going to happen. Sue kicked out Carl and got a restraining order. He was allowed to pick up his clothes and work tools, but that was about it. He got to the bank account before Sue and took out about 75%. She was pissed. We met with our attorney together and signed the papers. He said that there should be problem to get what we were asking for, which was about everything. Carl didn't fight it. He knew he was screwed, so he just signed over everything and gave Sue back most of the money he took. Beth, on the other hand, fought it. She wanted custody and support, but after more than a little arm twisting, her lawyer convinced her to give it up. I gave her visitation rights, but not overnight stays. In 3 months, it was all over. The day it became final, Sue and I went out to dinner. It was a celebration of a sort, but not really. I thought I had a good marriage until shit hit the fan. I told her, Steve, I saw it coming long before you. He started wanting to do things in the bedroom I wasn't comfortable with doing, and then getting angry when I wouldn't. Bondage, S&M, golden showers and swapping was not what I was into. Hell, we went on that cruise to connect, and all he wanted to do was to find couple to swap with. Sue, I never knew. We kept it under wraps, but I wasn't happy and now I might lose the house. He's not working and I can't afford it on my own. If you don't mind me asking, why do you have such a big house? I mean, you've got 5 bedrooms for just the 3 of you? Steve, it was a status thing. We were keeping up with everyone else and going deeper into debt by doing it. I didn't like the house from the beginning, but he insisted on buying it. Why don't you sell it and downsize? Where in the hell would I go even if I could sell that monstrosity? Well, if you're interested, I have a spare room in my house. Linda could bunk in the same room with Andy, and you could have the spare room. You could put your furniture in storage until you found another place. Steve, I like you, but... I stopped her right there. Sue, I feel kind of responsible for the mess you're in, and don't worry about me. I'm about as safe as it gets. Besides, Mom is watching my kids. What's one more? Her home sold in 2 months. She made very little, but at least it was something. She got to keep all the money because Carl was way behind on his child support payments. Over the period of a week, we moved her in, and instead of putting her stuff in storage, she had a yard sale and sold everything. So life went on. We ate together, we lived together, and even our 3 kids got along. Carl and Beth dated for a while, but it went nowhere. However, neither one of them liked the idea of us living together, but we were both saving a ton of money in the process. The first monthly barbecue we went to together, we turned heads. When we explained that we weren't a couple, just cohabitating, no one said another thing about it. It was about 6 months after Sue moved in and the kids were finally tucked away in their beds, she found me in the den, relaxing with a glass of wine. You want a glass? I asked as she walked into the room. Please, that would be nice. It's my last bottle of a case I bought in Sonoma when we went there on vacation 2 years ago. It's by far my favorite, I said, pouring Sue a glass. When did you really find out about Beth and Carl? She asked, staring at me. Shit was the first thing I thought. A couple of months after Carl did the first painting job. Beth and I weren't connecting much anymore, and she said something to the effect I didn't do it for her anymore. Well, if I wasn't, I had to find out who was. I set up the cameras, and after I heard a conversation between the 2 of them, I knew. I said, sipping my wine. You planned it on both of them, didn't you? Maybe yes, maybe no. Does it really make a difference anymore? I had to make sure they had no bargaining chips when it came to the divorces. You were going to make out, but I would have gotten hosed. It was just enough to give them both a misdemeanor's conviction, but allowed me to keep my kids. I guess I should have told you, but I didn't know if you would have gone along with it. Was me moving in with you part of the plan? Was I supposed to be some kind of revenge gift? She said, now a little angry. Sue, you weren't any part of my plan. I wanted to hurt Carl, but not you. I like you. I always have. When I put you in financial bind, I knew I had to help you out any way I could. I didn't feel I had to. I wanted to help you, if that makes any sense. I've tried to help you any way I could, and I genuinely like having you here. I guess I'm kind of surprised you haven't made a move on me yet, but I guess I'm not your type. Sue, I don't have a type, as you call it. It wasn't my intention to bring you into my house and seduce you, even though it has crossed my mind a few times now that we're being honest. Steve, to this day, I don't have a clue why Beth would cheat on you with Carl. He is bigger than you, but that's about it. You're smarter, better looking, and a hell of a lot easier to live with. What do you mean I'm smaller? I asked. All right, I peeked a couple of times when you came out of the shower. You're not a lot smaller, but smaller nonetheless. Carl thought that just because he was hung it made him a great lover, but that wasn't the case. There is more to making love, but he never learned that. I just wanted to know if I was part of your sinister plot to get revenge on your wife and Carl. Not that they didn't deserve what they got. Am I sorry I did it? Not a chance. I gave Beth every opportunity to revive our marriage, but when I heard what she said about me to Carl, it was all over but the paperwork. You, on the other hand, are the silver lining to my divorce. You're beautiful, loving, and treat people like they should be treated. I'm just thankful you're here with us. You keep saying us, we in words like that, but your actions don't say the same thing. We dance. We hold hands when we're with our children, and closest you've come to kissing me is a peck on the cheek. A couple of our friends asked me if you were gay. Gay? Our friends think I'm gay? Where did that all come from? Steve, only the women, not the men. Women talk, and they want to know if we're doing it, or if not, why the hell not? Aren't you the least bit horny? Speaking frankly, why in the hell aren't you nuts by now? Long cold showers and a soft right hand, if you must know. How about you? Don't you miss, male company? Steve, do you ever hear that low hum coming out of my room at night? Let me tell you, it's not the air conditioner making that humming noise, she said with a little laugh. It takes the edge off, but it's no replacement for a hot man. So, what I think you are saying is you want to take it to the next level? Earth to Steve, I want to take you upstairs and bawl your eyes out. Is that plain enough for you? I started to say something, but never had the chance to finish. Come on, Sue said, grabbing my hand. If I wait for you, we'll be too old and gray to do it. This was the first time I saw Sue completely naked. In a two-piece, she looked good. Lying on the bed, she looked great. She didn't have the body of a 20-year-old, but one of a 33-year-old MILF. We kissed until it became automatic. We lay there, side by side, facing each other, giving each other small pecks and kisses for the better part of a half hour. Was it what you expected? I asked. Better? You mean you don't think I'm gay anymore? Steve, I never thought you were gay, just too nice of a guy. But I'll take a nice guy like you over an asshole any day of the week. I laughed. So this means we're dating? Boy, you do move fast. First UFA girl, and then you expect to date her too? What kind of a girl do you think I am? Not a girl, a woman I want to share my bed with. Among other things, that's the last words we spoke that night. Saturday at Vicky and Mike's. While the guys cooked the steaks, the girls huddled around in the kitchen. So you two finally did it? Mike said, turning the steaks. Excuse me? Steve, I saw the look on Sue's face when the two of you walked in, and that phony kiss on the cheek didn't fool anyone. I told Vicky that you'd get around to it eventually, but she said Sue would end up having to jumping your bones. Which one of us won? About that time, we heard the girls in the kitchen scream. I hope you realize that because of you, now I have to give Vicky a 1-hour back massage tonight. Well, I guess it won't be a total loss, Mike said with a smile. After that night, we were like newlyweds. When they told us to get a room, we did just that, my bedroom. When she came home Friday night to a full driveway of cars, she wondered what had happened. When she walked into a full house of people, she wondered what function she'd forgotten about. Her parents, mine, the kids, and all our friend. Everyone was there. What's going on, Steve? What's everyone doing here? Sue, you forgot about our party? Steve, what party? She said with this weird look on her face. Sue, you forgot your own wedding party? Surprise, shock, amazement, and utter joy exploded out from her. She about killed me with kisses and hugs before some yelled for us to get a room. I think that's how this all started, I told her with a smile. Sue, I said, dropping down on one knee with everyone circling around us now. Will you marry me? You could have a pin drop as everyone waited silently. When she started to cry, I did get a little concerned for about a second before she nodded yes and then put her arms around me. Everyone exploded in cheers, clapping as someone yelled, "Let's get this party started. We're happy. We're very happy." I know with Sue I don't have to look over my shoulder to worry about what she's doing. But it was about a year and a half after I got married I got a surprise. I'd kept the surveillance going and had updated it to a larger tape that would handle 3 weeks worth of video. I switched the kitchen camera to the front of the house and left the others alone. Every once in a while, I'd look at the bedroom tape to watch us make love. That's when I got a real shocker. I was flipping through and erasing the downloads when I saw Sue on the bed naked. She had her toys out and was making good use of them. I turned up the volume to hear her. Was I turned on? Hell yes. Then looking up at the tape, I watched her smile. Steve, I hope you enjoyed the show. Maybe now you'll remove the one from our bedroom. I got a better one with a zoom.